to us, right? You guys know there's a shipping department and there's a receiving department, right? There's a lock and then there's a key. There's a lock and there's a key. What we've been doing for the past, again, 10 to 20 years, we've been focusing so much of our attention on one aspect, completely forgetting that there's another aspect involved. And this is bad. And this is usually what you hear from a lot of Muslims is when they're talking about nasiha, when we talk about it takes two to tango, they say, well, the brother or the sister given nasiha, they have to have at minimum 2 to 3 qualities, right? And it's so repetitive that many of you might have even memorized it. What is it? We have to give advice. What are the things you have to have? 2 or 3, what are they? Yeah, knowledge. Second is, you have to use wisdom, brother. That's hikmah. Okay, yeah. But hikmah is problematic because the definition, 99% of the Muslims, and I'm going out on a limb here, I know where'd you get that data from? 99% of the Muslims in the world think that hikmah is being nice and having a smile. That is not the definition of hikmah. Hikmah is knowing when to be passive. Hikmah is knowing when to be assertive. Hikmah is knowing when to be aggressive. That's what hikmah is. And this is the life of the Prophet ﷺ. This is the life, if you read the biography of the Prophet ﷺ, this was the man who lived and existed 15 centuries ago. He did not walk around smiling to everybody and they slapped him and he just turned the other cheek. No, that's Christianity. That's not Islam, okay? Going back, there are 3 things. Brother, you have to have knowledge. Brother, you have to have wisdom. And of course, people will say you have to have emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence really falls under the umbrella of wisdom. It's really one and the same thing. Do I have a problem with that? I don't. I actually agree with that, right? Given nasiha, you don't come to someone, humiliate them in front of everybody and say, yeah, I'm sure you're going to change tomorrow. No, we're not talking about how to give advice here. We're just simply talking about the missing element in all this, that we have to resurrect once again and say, hey, look, you're not absolved here. You're a part of the mix too here. Hello, wake up, right? We have to resuscitate them like, hey, you're part of the problem too. Wake up, right? So, okay, but it doesn't stop there. Let's assume that this person had all of the ingredients there. The prerequisites are met. If this person had all of the ingredients there, is nasiha and change going to come to fruition if the receiving end has all the missing ingredients? Is it going to work? No. The person who's given nasiha has to have certain ingredients active, and the person accepting nasiha has to have certain ingredients that are active as well. So now let us start talking about what we got to do on the receiving end. Because look, you can have all the ingredients in the world. You can be the nicest person, and you went about it the nicest way, the perfect way. You did it all. But the person you're speaking with is so egotistical and so self-centered that it doesn't really matter how you give them nasiha. Because now you've done your job. It's not about you anymore. The receiving end is not receiving anymore. You guys get where I'm going with this? So it takes 2 to tango. That's usually used in a negative sense, by the way. It's like more of dancing and stuff. But I'm using it here more in a halal way. So here are the things that you as a Muslim have to have on the receiving end. Okay? You have to have humility. Humility. You have to acknowledge that regardless of how many PhDs you have, how much money you make, how many boards you're on, how many organizations you've started, at the end of the day, you're not above criticism. How old you are, it doesn't matter. How much you earn is irrelevant. You have to have humility. To understand that, yes, you excel in one science, but do you know how many sciences there are in the world? A lot. The sciences, you excel in one science. The sciences that you're ignorant of are far more than the one science that you perfect and excel in. This is not to downplay your importance or what you contribute or how you contribute, but it's for us to really kind of get an overall view of, wow, like for us to have some humility, right? I mean, this is one science. There are a lot of sciences out there that we're completely oblivious of, right? To have a sense of humility. The second one is for you to have a penetratable ego. Now, I don't say not to have an ego, because all of us have an ego, but the degrees of our egos and how big they are, some need to be inflated, some have to be deflated. But I would argue most of the times what we're dealing with is it has to be deflated, right? It's too much. Why? Because we're living in a society that prides itself on self-actualization, self-motivation, how to develop the self, how to be more selfish, how to worry about yourself, build your career, customize your phone. It's all about you, 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 you. And when someone comes to you, all of a sudden it says, it's actually really not about you. You don't know how to react, right? Because you're never told that. We're never told that. We're just taught that we're special and there's something uniquely innate, special about us, and we're special overall, right? I mean, you can argue you're special, we're not special. This is not our point here. So you have a penetratable ego, you have humility, and there are other things that that could also be included in there, but I will not go into that. I mean, maturity is, you could say maturity and humility is kind of one and the same thing. Okay, this is what Shaitan does. Shaitan, the job of Shaitan is to magnify that which is irrelevant and insignificant in the sight of Allah. He wants to magnify that which doesn't have any worth. But he also wants to do the opposite. He wants to minimize and downplay that which is significant in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the job of Shaitan. So in other words, he wants us to make a big deal when there's no big deal. Okay? And this is how we Muslims have become. And I'm going to give you an analogy so you can understand better. You know when you tell someone that they don't pray, that's haram. They're incurring Allah's wrath every day by not praying. When a woman doesn't wear her proper hijab outside, she is incurring Allah's wrath every day. We have to be open and have these conversations. Enough of the, oh, no, we have to have these conversations. Because the whole world is talking to our women about how they ought to behave in public, except us Muslim du'at and people of knowledge. Oh, that's not wisdom. I find that to be deceptive, that the whole world is teaching our women how they ought to be in public, except us people of knowledge. Enough is enough. It lasted a while, good, but I think we have to kind of really say, look, it's good while it lasted, but enough is enough. Okay? What do I mean by that? When I'm talking about this concept of focus, you know when you give someone nasiha and you go about it the wrong way, are there people who don't know how to give advice? Yes, there's a lot of people out there who do not know how to give advice, right? And they do it the wrong way. Let's assume they went about it the wrong way, okay? What is that considered? Is that a major sin or is that just merely a mistake? I'm not trying to trick you guys, by the way. What is he after? No, it's a mistake, right? I gave you an nasiha. Brother, wallah, you have to pray. I mean, is what he said, is it true or not? It's true. But did he go about it the right way? Spitting in your face, down your throat, you gotta, oh, brother. Okay, tell you, what he said was true, he or she was true, but the way they went about it is not the right way, right? That's considered a mistake. A mistake. That's not even a sin. Not praying 5 times a day is an egregious sin. Not wearing hijab is an egregious sin. Committing zina is an egregious sin. Dolling yourself up on your Instagram in front of millions of men is an egregious sin. Gambling is an egregious sin. Committing sihr and magic is an egregious sin. Do you know what we're doing today? We have completely shifted our focus on the people who are committing these atrocities, and we've left them alone, and we focused our attention on, did you see how that guy gave nasiha? You have to learn how to treat people. You have to have sympathy. You have to have love. You have to have, I mean, I'm not against that, but the bigger problem here is this person committed a mistake. You here, you're playing with fire. You're flirting with fire. What is more egregious in the sight of Allah? Committing a mistake or committing an egregious sin? But today, our discourse online is all about, yeah, but you should not be talking to people like that. Oh, I agree. Hey, but the bigger problem, I think we should focus the bulk of our attention on the person who's not praying, on the person who's committing zina, not the person who went about it the wrong way. They made a mistake. They still get rewarded. In front of Allah, Allah still rewards them because of their intention. They just wanted to give right advice. That's all they wanted to do. So this is what Shaitan does. Shaitan, once again, he wants to magnify that which is insignificant. He wants to make a big deal out of the small petty things. And he wants to minimize and downplay that which is significant. And we know what our job is? Our job is to know when that's happening. Not to fall into it and follow it. Our job as Muslims is to know when that's happening and to call it out, so we don't fall victim and prey to a lot of his nonsensical garbage. Okay. How can I put this? Another point that I want to bring to all of your attention. when you're, how can I say this? When you see, there's a bigger problem, I feel. When Muslims give you all these excuses, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other, I would argue that the underlying issue is not really about not judging me. It has nothing to do with that. The underlying problem that I would say is arrogance and kibr. Arrogance and kibr. The Prophet ﷺ, when he talks about the definition of arrogance, what does he say? He says, Al-kibr batarul haqq wa ghamtun nas. Arrogance is rejecting truth and despising people. That's what arrogance is. Okay? So when you don't accept nasiha from the person who gave it to you the wrong way, I think you have a way bigger problem on your hands here than the person who gave you nasiha but didn't go about it the right way. Because this person just might need to tweak their advice a bit, their way, they need to tweak it a bit. But guess what? You, on the other hand, rejecting the truth when you see it under an alibi after the other, you might be dealing with a really big problem on your hands, and that's probably arrogance. Kibr. Did you guys see? So, but what we do is we focus so much on this guy who gave nasiha and didn't go about it the right way, but we don't realize that, you know what? Maybe this arrogance that I'm carrying in my heart, maybe this is what's going to be my downfall, if you will, right? Okay, I will maybe end with this. Two more things, inshallah ta'ala, that I would like to end with, inshallah. If you take vaccines, if you took the flu shot for COVID, if you didn't, you're my brother, you're my sister, I still love you for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're for, against, you're still my brother, okay? It's not a matter of wala and bara. When you go to the doctor's office to get a jab, do you go the way you are and just say, hey, give me the jab with all of your layers on top of you? What do? There's something that you have to do on the receiving end, right? What's your name, brother? Nuruddin. Hayallah Nuruddin. Nuruddin, do you go get the jab? I don't know if you're for or against, it doesn't matter. Let's assume you're for the jab, all right? Do you go to the doctor's office and you just say, hey, I'm not taking off my coat, I'm not taking off my long johns, I want you to give me a jab the way I am, because I'm perfect. Do you do that? What do? You're asked to do something, right? So we got the person giving the jab, and you have to do something. What do you have to do? How many layers? You have to take out 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers, 4 layers, right? And that doesn't even stop there. Then they get that little cleaning, right? Kleenex, and they start cleaning everything to make sure it works effectively, right? Yeah. Do you know what we Muslims are doing? We have so many layers of our ego, so many layers of self-actualization, so many layers of self-motivation, self-this, self-that, but we don't even know that we have all those layers. So people are trying to reach out to us, but every time someone tries to reach out to us because they really love us and care for us, that jab is not getting to where it needs to get. Why? Because we have too many layers. I'm telling you, we have to start working on ourselves instead of constantly blaming others for our downfall. And do you guys know why it's easy just to blame others for our downfall? Because it doesn't require any work. It's easy. It's very easy. When you fail and you're constantly blaming it on other people, it's very easy to do. So I hope you guys got the analogy with the jab of removing first. Maybe you're the problem. Maybe you have too many layers, and that's why you're not progressing as a Muslim. This is why you have a hard-on with people who give you advice. All of these are possibilities. But I think we have to start having the conversation to begin with, right? One last thing I would like to end with, inshallah ta'ala, is this. I've noticed there's a stark difference between Muslims giving advice when it comes to religious affairs versus Muslims giving advice concerning their worldly affairs. I've noticed this so many times, that when someone gives you advice when it comes to religion, you get all uppity up. Oh, who are you to tell me, and who are you to judge, and you're the haram police, and worry about yourself, and I'm sure you got other sins to worry about, then the list goes on, right? However, when it comes to the dunya, I've noticed it's completely different. In the dunya, you can call someone an idiot, you can call them a jerk, you can call them all names. But if you're going to show this person how they're going to become more profitable, they will completely dismiss all of that. They no longer worry about how you approach them. You get where I'm going with this? So long as you're going to show them how to become more profitable in their business, oh, they'll give you an ear. They're willing to listen. Do you know why? Because Shaitan wants you to just lose your way, get more sturdy in the dunya, get more deep in the dunya. But when it comes to the deen, Shaitan doesn't want you to change. That's why when someone tells you that you're doing something wrong religiously, there's something going on inside it. There's this battle inside. You don't want to accept it, and you get all uppity up, and you're fighting inside. But when someone comes and tells you, you're an idiot, this is not how you run a business, you turn around and say, really? Okay, show me how it's done. You don't look at him and say, whoa, you called me an idiot? You know who you're talking to? You don't say that, right? You're like, really? You're not worried about what he called you anymore, because now money is involved. The dollar, the ching, 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 right? And now you're like, I don't care how you talk to me. Show me how to make these Benjamins, right? What I'm saying is do not allow yourself to be that person. Where it comes to the religious affairs, oh, you're heated. You're ready to throw blows, right? But when it comes to the dunya, you're always willing for people to give you advice, to consult you, to tell you what you're doing is wrong, and you accept constructive criticism. But when it comes to the religion, nobody tells you what to do. We don't want to be that person. Okay? Maybe I'll end with one thing, inshallah ta'ala, Sheikh. Okay? I don't know if they have any questions or not, but I just want to end with one thing. How you know Shaitan is playing you is that I've noticed some of the shabab, some of our younger generation, when they come to the masjid, someone looks at them the wrong way, someone tells them about themselves, they've taken it on themselves to never set foot in that masjid. Why? Because someone told them your haircut is not a respectful haircut, or your pants are too tight, or you're coming with perfume to the masjid. Please stop doing that. That's a fitna. All of a sudden, they find it justifiable to never set foot back in that masjid again. I'm never going back there again. They're so judgmental. Okay, let us flip the script here. Imagine a young man, the same young man or the same young woman, they go to a club, they go to a gym, they go to the store, they go to somewhere that they like. Their heart is in it. When they get kicked out by security, do you know what they've already done? They have already improvised and found a way to get back into that mall the following day, either using a different exit, using a fake ID. Hell, it might be them even dyeing their hair, just so that person or that security guard doesn't know that that's the same person they kicked out the night before. Do you guys see what's happening here? Do you know the difference? They can be humiliated at the mall. They could be spat on. Everything and anything could have happened to them. But the minute they get kicked out of that mall or that gym, they've already found a way to come right back in. Do you know what this means, y'all? Y'all know what I'm talking about? You guys know what this means? I'm telling you, do not allow Shaitan to give you the stupidest excuses, and you take them and you think like, I'm going to take this with me to Allah on Judgment Day, and I'm going to tell him from 20 until 65, I never set foot in that masjid because an uncle spoke to me the wrong way. Don't let Shaitan play you for a dummy. Really. And I know I'm being direct here. This is the language I think that's missing in Muslim discourse today. Everything is so vague, and then we think, I've done my job. No, you're being so vague that everyone in the audience thinks that you're talking about everyone else except them, when you mean none other than them, right? I want to repeat that one more time. Do you know why the person has found a way to get back in there? Because their heart is into going back to the mall. Their heart, they want to go back to the gym. Their heart, they want to go back to that club. But their heart is not in wanting to come back to the masjid. That's why someone looks at them the wrong way. Oh, they're packaged, they're done. I'm never going back to that masjid again. You know what this means? What this means? This means Shaitan has you up. I played the fool. Aren't you smart and critical? Ain't nobody playing me for a dummy. Yeah, Shaitan just played you for a dummy. Right? That's really what he did. Oh, you're sharp and critical, but you ain't coming back to the masjid, right? لا تضر إلا نفسك. You're harming yourself by doing this. And do not think for a moment, brothers and sisters, that if this is you, do not think that Allah is going to take that person, that auntie and uncle, throw them into hellfire because they didn't address you the right way, and He's going to take you and put you in the greatest darajat of Firdaus because you didn't come to the masjid for 40 to 50 years. Because someone looked at you the wrong way when you were younger. Right? I think we're a little bit too soft when it comes to these things, right? One last thing I'll end with. When I was growing up, we went to the masjid, and the sheikh, man, he would pound our heads with a sledgehammer. We would leave and we would talk with one another and say, SubhanAllah, we got to get our stuff together, man. Do you hear what the sheikh said? That hadith of not praying, that hadith of doing this. Today, the person is committing every sin in the book. The sheikh says something about him, they leave. Who is he to judge us? You guys see the difference? Isn't that his job to tell you that what you're doing is leading to Allah's wrath and punishment? Is that not our job and duty to remind you that what you're doing is incurring Allah's wrath? I'm telling you, the younger generation, we have to wake up. We're too soft. We are awfully soft. We have to stop patting people on the back and reminding them of how great they are. Constructive criticism is needed. The same way that compliments and patted on the back, that's needed, but we also need the other side as well, because this deludes people. Right? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك جزاكم الله خير والله أدرى وأعلم. I don't know if there are any questions concerning the subject that maybe ده عندنا 10 دقائق 5 دقائق أسئلة. إذا في أسئلة شباب اسمعنا.
We can relate 10 minutes, no problem. So anybody has any question related to this topic, please brother.
By the way, let me just make a disclaimer. When you find a sheikh yelling, I know shaitan is telling you to be dismissive of that person. Wow, they're so aggressive. Oh, they lack so much wisdom. That's not how you address people. Yeah, okay, the list goes on and on. Now notice though, when people are in their LGBT rallies, people are screaming at the top of their lungs. And people on the sideline, they're screaming and they're championing them on. Way to go! Man, it's all over the place, right? Why is it that when they're rallying for LGBT causes, that's called being passionate, having fervor and zeal. But when an imam does it for the sake for Allah, I hope it's for him and him alone, all of a sudden you become aggressive and you're pushing people away from the masjid. We have to snap out of it, folks. We have to really snap out of this, right? And I want to share something with you that I shared with Brother Yusuf last night. Where we're at right now, Muslims in the truth, see, the truth is the end. The truth is the end. Sometimes to reach the truth, you have to traverse a controversial bridge. So the controversial bridge is not the end. It's a means to get to the truth. But some of us, unfortunately, we think that, oh, we can do it without that. One last analogy I would use is I feel as if the imams, mashayikh, people of knowledge, were in front of a river, a dried river. It's nothing but mud. It's murky water. It's an old pond. But we have to traverse the other side. Some Muslim public speakers are saying, look, we have to get dirty. There's no way of doing it. We have to get to the other side. The other side is the truth. Other Muslims are saying, no, we can do it without getting dirty. Listen. There's no way except getting a little bit dirty. I don't get dirty because I find pleasure in getting dirty. But it comes with the package. If you want to get to the other side, you're going to have to get dirty a little bit. Again, I don't want to get dirty. I just want to get to the other side. But getting to the other side entails getting a little dirty. I hope that made a little bit sense. Any other follow-up now?
So, when we give advice to someone, if they are sinning, if there is a major sin, so what is the frequency that we should maintain? Like, should we point that every day?
Yeah, sure. Here's the one thing. I gave a dawah course, by the way. This was years ago at the U of M in Minneapolis. And I said, one of the things that you don't want to do when it comes to dawah, you do not want to be so predictable that when people see you, they want to go the other way. Does that make sense? So when you give a sister who's not da'wah or advice to a sister who's not wearing hijab, you do not have to pound her with a lecture or advice every day. Oh, did you change it? Did you see that link? Allow people time to change. And the same goes for Andrew Tate. For those who are disappointed that Andrew Tate accepted Islam, right? Bro, you got to give him time. I mean, he's been a Muslim for 3 days. He's been a Kafir for 30, 40 years. What do you expect that 40 or 30 years to go down the drain and for him to be the best Muslim and at Hajj and at the Duxi the following day or two? We got to wake up. What's really, seriously. Going back to your question though, do not be so predictable. Give them nasiha and give it a week, give it or 2 weeks. Hey, by the way, I just want to, did you get a chance to check out that video or that link that I sent you? You know, yeah, but don't be so predictable that when they see you, they're like, I do not want to see this guy. I'm going the other way, right? Because some Muslims are like that. They want to pound you like hey, I sent you that link last night. Did you watch it? Why not? Woosah, right? Take a little breather, pump your brakes a little bit, right? Yeah, but that's a good question though. Yeah, don't be so predictable that you start turning people off, right? Yes.
You said that last 20 years have been different. And I recognize because of the internet and basically the number of megaphones have increased so many fold now. When I was growing up, there was probably 2 megaphones. One at the mom had it, and the other one was the state had it for the television.
Sure.
So is that the problem here? Is that the number of megaphones have increased, and this denial thing, that judging thing, is just not a Muslim problem. It's all over the world. You go and people, even in a worldly affair, you say something, they will give you the same response. That you're trying to judge me, and they will just try to deny that. So that's what the problem is basically the number of megaphones have increased and people are just mistaking it, right?
I think it's bigger than that. I think there's a genuine fear in criticism and holding people accountable. I really believe that. I've been at this for 10 years, and I think there's a genuine fear of legitimate constructive criticism, and we're afraid of hurting the feelings of others. Some are afraid of not being invited to the next event. Some are afraid of being canceled. I mean, can we be honest? Can we be honest? Can we? Can we? I'm not going to talk about 9/11. Don't worry. Can we be honest? Have you ever been to a national convention and they talked about the obligation of hijab? No, I'll answer for you. Have you ever been to a national convention and you heard some Muslim speaker talk about how it is an Islamic concept for a woman to obey her husband? No, and you won't. Do you get where I'm going with this? There's a problem. There's a lot of cherry picking going on and a great deal of selectivity that's going on. And guess what? It's damaging and destroying the very people that we are claiming we want to help. And if we keep going this way and the selectivity persists, we're only going to now damage the generation that comes after. Now. Yes. Yeah, Jazakallah khair. Yep. Inshallah, we're last question, inshallah.
So
We're Muslim too.
So when we all make a lot of mistakes. I want to learn about how to give advice.
Sure.
So when we see someone, say that person making a lot of mistakes,
Sure.
starting from the major to the minor. Now I see that there's so many 10, 100 mistakes. Should we point all those mistakes one by one, or should we start from the major mistakes?
Here's the difference. Use your discretion. There's not a one size that fits all. There's not a one size that fits all. I believe that if you're going to, that's going to be overwhelming. And it depends on the person's receptibility, right? If the person is receptive, and they want to hear more, then give them more. But if you just feel like it's too much on them, ease off of it. So it's really, use your discretion who you're speaking with. Is this the first time? Have you spoken to them before? Where are they at on their journey? It's a really one-on-one basis. It's not a one size shoe that fits all.
It starts from the top.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to, start with the top, whatever that is, especially if it's something that's going to hurt them, it's going to harm them, such as, smoking, drinking, and stuff like that. Definitely, yes. Yusuf, hayakallah.
Just real quick.
Sure.
What can we do as a collective, especially online, in order to minimize what's happening? And microphones, the big microphones that you're talking about, the megaphones. Those people who have those megaphones that are the loudest are usually not the best for our humanity. And so what can we do as a collective, either in our communities or online, to make sure that the negative people, the people who want to take our kids away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they want to indoctrinate them with the wrong ideology, what can we do collectively to try and minimize it?
Akhi, wallahi, I don't know where to start. I mean, there's always the generic advice. Now, of sticking to your deen, sticking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sticking to the authentic scholars, staying away from these YouTube sensationalists, staying away from all these YouTube young kids who are just posting nonsense. And I mean, it's unreal. They grow at the age of 40 and realize that 90% of the content they put on YouTube, actually, they regret putting up, right? And so there's this idea of I know it all. in the younger generation. It's very fast. Like, I think we have to pump our brakes as the younger generation. I know you can log into your 10 platforms with your eyes closed without looking at your phone. Very good, but I still feel like we have to have a great deal of humility. I don't think I answered your question, Akhi Yusuf. Clarify just one last thing. I don't.
What can we do collectively to put those people who are trying to indoctrinate our kids and our youth with the wrong ideologies, trying to take them astray, who claim to also be Muslims? What can we do collectively to try to suppress them?
If you were to ask me, and some of you might not like this answer, but I think the one ingredient that's missing in Muslim discourse is courage. Is courage. And I mean this. By observing what's going on in the scene for the past 10 years, I would say courage is the one ingredient that's missing. Not boldness or audacity or recklessness. No, I'm talking about courage. To stand up when you have to stand up, and to be passive when you have to be passive, and to say enough is enough. Because look, people can push you, and they can push you, and they can push you, and you can keep smiling and smiling and smiling, but there comes a time they're going to push you so far where now you're going to fall off the cliff. You can't just keep smiling and, oh, Islam is all about smile, and mashallah, we get rewarded in Islam just for smiling. It's amazing. What a religion. Okay, yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of other truths to Islam that we also have to abide by, right? So I think we have to stand up firm for our principles. You find Christians today talking about topics that us Muslims are intentionally shying away from. Do you not think that that's going to be a fitna for our younger generation? We have younger men and women. I get these messages. Sheikh, you know what I get? Let me open up the books. I get messages, especially from young men. Sheikh, how come you're the only one talking about this? Sheikh, how come I never heard this khutbah at the masjid? Sheikh, how come I never heard an imam talking about ABC, XYZ? Do you all not think that this is a fitna for the younger generation? Yes. Because there's a testimony of the sister who says, I'm not coming back to that masjid because the sheikh talked about hijab. What about the testimony of the sister who came to the imam and said, Imam, may Allah reward you. I've been coming to the masjid for 10 years. Not once have I heard a sheikh on the minbar talking about the requirements and the necessity of the hijab for the Muslim woman. Thank you for strengthening me. What happens to her testimony? Why does the testimony of the sister who now finds it valid to leave Islam or to leave the masjid, why does her testimony take precedence over the sister who feels revived that someone finally talked about it? Why? I love you all for the sake of Allah.
Sheikh, there are lots of.
But I'm not talking about this sheikh, by the way. He remains an exception. All right? Or is he talking about me? No, yes,
So to our youth, just one good advice. So if they leave today masjid, they are going to practice that. Just one advice to our.
Well, listen, I'm telling you, a lot of you younger, you guys don't know how good you have it. And I mean this. Wallahi, you guys have no idea how good you have it. I wish I was at the masjid when I was 7 and 10 years old. I wasn't. There are many things I'm teaching my son now that I only learned when I was 20 years old. That's embarrassing. It's the qadr of Allah. But I know you. The masjid, I'd rather be playing. I'd rather be on YouTube. I'd rather be on Facebook. I'd rather be playing video games. That's natural to feel that way. But you guys will only realize this time that's lost until when you grow up. I know you don't want to memorize the Quran. I know you don't want to sit at the duksi. I know all that. I know how it feels. But you don't realize how honored you are that your parents are actually bringing you to the masjid to learn the deen, to learn the religion, and so on and so forth. Right? So one thing is take advantage of your youth. Take advantage, utilize it. Because later on in life, things are going to change. You get married, you start having kids, and you're in college, you can't memorize that Quran anymore. You can't memorize the hadith anymore. You can't memorize aqidah. There's not much you can do. Take advantage. And the Prophet ﷺ, he says, لن تزول قدم عبد يوم القيامة حتى يسأل عن أربع ومن هذه الأربعة يسأل عن شبابه فيما أفناه. Right? Out of the 4 things that we will be asked about on Judgment Day is your youth. What did you do with it? Minimize your time on YouTube. Minimize your time on social media. You have to be doing other things. Be creative, run, exercise, lift weights. And this is a message for the parents as well. Get your children off of these devices. We are literally killing our children with these devices. You have some Muslim parents, their kids only eat with their telephone next to them. This is destructive. I'm not aggressive no, I'm passionate because there has to be change. So make a long story short, inshallah ta'ala, so I'm not getting too carried away. Take advantage of your youth. And listen, if you're considering leaving Islam, don't do it now. I'm not saying do it later. You know nothing about the world. When you're 15 and you know nothing. I don't care how many Steve Hawkins videos you watched, how many Richard Dawkins videos you watched, and you think you got it all figured out, bruh. Wallahi, you know nothing about the world. We're done. If you're planning on leaving Islam, and you're adamant, don't leave it in your teens, don't leave it as a young adult. Wait until you're 30, 35, 40, and then if you're really adamant about it, then no one's going to control. Don't leave Islam now when you're a teen and you think you got everything figured out. That's delusional. And you should not be watching these figures to begin with, right? Anyways, I love you all for the sake of Allah. Keep me your dua. Jazakumullah khair. Salat, is that what you're going to say? Oh.
I am 83.
You look 63.
He did not get the meaning of the Quran, the Arabic word. We didn't know. You see, after now I don't know much about the meaning of the Quran.
Right.
So, in this age, younger children, they should be teach the meaning and then the action.
Indeed. Sahih.
We accept it.
Yes, Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. Allah yabarak fik. Hayakumullah. Jazakumullah. Huh? طيب. اللهم لا إله إلا أنت يا حي يا قيوم يا عالم الغيب والشهادة. اللهم لا إله إلا أنت تبارك اسمك وتعالى جدك. اللهم إنا نسألك بكل اسم هو لك علمته أحدا من خلقك أو استأثرت به في علم الغيب عندك أن تجعل القرآن ربيع قلوبنا ونور صدورنا وشفيع قبورنا. اللهم وفقنا لما يرضيك. اللهم يا حي يا قيوم ألف بين قلوبنا. اللهم احفظ وثبت شبابنا. اللهم اربط على قلوبهم. اللهم يا ربي خذ على أيديهم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت. هذا والله أدرى وأعلم.
جزاك الله خير.